It's Alana. On this episode of Sincerely Alana, we will be talking about depression. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you guys to check out the website, sincerelyalana.weebly.com. I'll leave the link below in the bio for you guys to check out. Please just go in, make sure that you guys check out all the resources, watch the videos, and there's also some blogs and more information about myself. So thank you guys so much for coming back to tune in, and let's get started. So depression is really the #1 thing that got me started into learning more about mental health, especially among Pacific Islanders. And it was the gateway into learning more about other social issues within the Pacific Islander community. The reason why it strikes so close to home is basically because I myself suffer with depression as well as acute anxiety. So I know I've had depression for quite a long time. I would say probably early teens until even now I still struggle with it. But it really came full force when my grandmother passed away. So if you guys remember from the very first video where I give you more information about myself, and it's really just my introduction to you guys, my grandmother passed away during the end of my senior year. That was also the time when I had just moved out of my house and I was kind of making it on my own, and you know, senior year and graduating, it all comes with its own set of stresses and just a lot. So when I was going through this stage of my life, I just found myself really sad and depressed like all the time. And depression really isn't anything to mess with or to take lightly. If you ask anybody who does deal with depression, you know, we all have our own different experiences, but no matter what, you see that it is something that really does affect our lives and that we take seriously, because it can sometimes take away from the quality of our life, and it influences our behavior, how we react to certain things. And at the end of the day, it's just not something that anybody wants to deal with, or I don't even think people would wish this upon anybody else to have. I don't want to just throw you guys a bunch of statistics, because you can go on Google and I'm sure you'll find hundreds and hundreds of statistics regarding depression. However, I just really want to narrow it down to ones that I feel are very important. So depression is still increasing, especially among Pacific Islanders. We'll get into specifics why, but part of that does have to do with the historical trauma that I mentioned in the 3rd installment. Additionally, suicide is the 2nd leading cause of death among college students. And I know college students, it's not really directed towards Pacific Islanders specifically. However, I do want to address that point because it does affect a lot of college students, and even more so Pacific Islander college students. Third of all, depression is serious. If you guys don't think that depression doesn't lead to suicide, you're wrong. Do your research, because depression and suicide very much do go hand in hand. These are very sad and upsetting statistics. However, it's really important that we do address these topics. So the first thing that I'm going to focus my attention on is depression among Pacific Islanders. One of the main reasons and driving causes that I really think contributes to Pacific Islanders experiencing such high rates of depression and suicide is due to the fact that we experience historical trauma. Like I mentioned before, historical trauma is really the experiences that we face today that are caused by colonization that happened years ago. One of the leading reasons why I think historical trauma is so impactful is because of the lack of intergenerational communication that's experienced. So for Pacific Islanders and how we grew up, the elders were really discouraged from teaching their kids about the language and tradition and the culture that we've accumulated from so many years. So to give them the better life that they were told, they completely got rid of culture and forced upon them the American way, the European way, to be able to survive and provide them with a better life. So although a lot of people do say that did happen because we are successful, we're able to communicate with the rest of the world and be a part of globalization and the world system, yes, that can be positive and that can lead to us having a better life. However, it takes away the fact that we don't feel comfortable talking to one another because our parents, our grandparents never talk to us. If they don't talk to us, we're teaching those traits to our kids, and so on and so on and so on. So this unhealthy habit of not having open communication or being connected to your roots is deeply affecting your self-confidence and your mental health, because you're not really prepared or able to talk about things like feelings. And as cliche as that sounds, it's really important to have somebody to share your feelings with. And if in your own family you don't learn that at an early age, or even, before adulthood, that's a habit that sticks with you for the rest of your life unless you are consciously aware of it and you train yourself to do otherwise, which isn't the easiest thing. So for Pacific Islanders, the fact that we don't know how to communicate, I really think that's the leading reason that attributes to our lack of communication and understanding of mental health, specifically depression. When we feel alone and when we're not able to communicate our feelings effectively, that does lead to depression, because you don't know how to handle the things that are going on in your life. I know for me, I had a really difficult time talking to my parents. Not so much because they didn't want to talk to me or they weren't around all the time, just for, different reasons. Everyone's family is different. Everyone's experience with their parents is different. But I knew that, in hindsight, going to seek help and talking to other people and talking to other families and friends, I learned that my communication patterns that I had with my parents weren't healthy, and that's why I tend to shut people out and hide myself and my feelings from other people. And when it came down to it, my depression and my overall health started going away due to the fact that I was able to talk to other people about it. So communication is something that I think is very underrated, but something that should be addressed more often. If you feel that you don't have people to communicate to, if you're not comfortable yet opening up to friends or family, even try talking to yourself or keeping a journal. You're still internalizing it, but it's a step to really analyze and do self-analyzation about what it is that you believe that you need in order to take the next step. But I definitely recommend at least finding one friend that you can talk to and not necessarily get advice from, but just to kind of vent and let your feelings out and really just make sure that you don't feel alone. Also, through historical trauma, a lot of people feel lonely because, you're cut off from your culture, you don't really talk well with your family members, and that feeling of loneliness really just re-emphasizes how communication is so important, because you're not communicating with others, you feel alone, and those are the things that lead to depression. Going into the second topic today is depression among college students. So I have been in college for 3 years now. I have a bunch of friends who are in college, and really, I know that I've experienced depression since high school, but seeing the amount of friends that I've had who were totally happy in high school, they're now becoming depressed. Slowly but surely, they are feeling symptoms of depression. They're not happy, they don't like to go out, they're really shut down and they don't know how to cope. And I learned about this in sociology, where people who go seek help from social workers, especially when they're experiencing things like addiction, they think that their situation is very individualized and specific to their situation and that nobody else is going through it. And so that makes it hard to talk to these people and give them help and advice and aid, because they feel that you don't know what it is that they're going through. You don't have the specialization to really address specifically what their needs are. And as horrible as that is, it's important that eventually they come to the point where they do realize that, okay, well, other people are going through this. No, this isn't the exact same situation, but the things that are happening to me and the way that I'm feeling and the way that would probably really help me fix it, other people have been through and experienced. So if I can kind of open this awareness up and provide resources and information about how to get that help or how to come to that realization or what would be able to better suit your needs, I'm more than happy to do so. So for college students, and why I think depression rates are growing so rapidly and suicide is now the second leading cause of death among them, there's a lot of factors that come into play. Number one, I think, is just the overall competition. Nowadays, you're told by everybody in the world, your friends, your family, the government, that the only way to get a good job and be successful in life is to go to college. What does that mean? There's only so many colleges, and their rates to get into the best schools or the schools that are going to set you above everybody else, they're super competitive. So not only are you competing just from the people within your local community or even within your state, it's now come to the point where you're competing with people worldwide. I know a lot of my friends from state, from SDSU, they have met a lot of international students, and I've even met some of them, and they're amazing people, don't get me wrong, but it's just not unfortunate, but kind of eye-opening to see that these people from London, from halfway across the world, are able to get into San Diego State, when my friend, who's, you know, good grades, good girl, she wasn't able to get into state, and she lives here. So it's really just eye-opening to see how many people around the world are looking at these schools. And it's not like San Diego State is the best school in the entire world. Competitiveness in college basically means that you need to have good grades, you need to have volunteer experience, leadership experience, be involved in clubs, organizations, and overall just have really good citizenship and seem like a good person. Which sounds somewhat easy, but if you look at it and how much time people have, and also the other extracurricular requirements or commitments that people have, not including their family values, all those things that lead into being competitive enough to get into a really good school, that takes a lot of time. That in itself is a full-time job. And if you're similar to me or my situation and have to work for part of high school, or even all of high school, if you're working through college, that's just a time commitment that you're not able to really have, especially if you struggle with academics, or you need extra help or tutoring to really understand the material that you're learning. So with competitiveness in colleges, it's a lot of stress to be able to meet those requirements and those standards, and that kind of, it really is a lifestyle to be able to do all of those things and be successful. And I think that's why people are so discouraged in going to college or in going to school, because if they know that they're having difficulty just learning what it is that's being taught in high school, they're being discouraged because they know that it's super competitive just to get into college. And additionally, when you do get to college and you do get accepted, there is this thing on college campuses that people sometimes call rape culture, sex culture, hookup culture, but for the purpose of this video, I will be calling it hookup culture. Basically, what this means to me is that when you go onto a college campus and you become into activities, a very common thing is to become involved with Greek life, so going into a sorority, fraternity, but basically just going to parties. There's this peer pressure put on you to do drugs and drink and have one-night stands and hookups. And at the end of the day, those just aren't the best decisions. And they're fun in the moment, you're having a good time, you have friends, you fit in, and what that comes down to, what the hookup culture comes down to, is feeling acceptance. And especially if you're going out of state or on a different college campus and you're away from what you're used to, that pressure to fit in and that wantingness and that willingness to just be part of a group and feel like you belong, I think that's a really strong factor that a lot of people tend to forget about. Belongingness is actually in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So for sociology majors, people who know about sociology, if you're and even if you're just interested, look up Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and belongingness is one of the top priorities, really, besides basic survival. Because belongingness means that you have somebody to fall back on. It means that, ancient times, you're not going to go extinct. You have people that love you, that comfort you, and it really provides that emotional support. And especially on college campus, when you're going through these changes and when you're still dealing with competitiveness and the pressure to get good grades, be a good student, give back to your community, and get the degree. So with the hookup culture, in order to fit in, there is that pressure to go to parties and make these decisions. And there are people that I know who are super comfortable with it. Like, they know their body, they know what they're doing, they're not experienced, but they're open to the experiences of doing these behaviors, which, all the power to them. I'm supportive of people who are comfortable with what they're doing, how they're doing it, and who can really reassure other people that they're being safe in the process. Like, there's a right and a wrong, and you know, you can't tell people not to drink, not to do drugs, not to have sex, because I think, personally, I think that through my experiences and what I've seen people experience, the more that you tell someone no, or the more that you pull them from doing something, the more that they want to. And if you're not somebody that is comfortable with these things, sex, drugs, that lifestyle, that's when depression kind of comes into play, because you're feeling all this pressure to be something and do something that's not necessarily you. And even if you do say no, you're still kind of, not harassed about it, but kind of taunted. I know some people get labels, and it's not healthy and it's not fun. So, you know, if you see that happening to somebody, please discourage it and, you know, make them feel okay. But that's not always the case. There's not always people to kind of step in and stop that from happening. So that's why the hookup culture does have an impact on depression, because it's the peer pressure to do and be something that you're not. That, and the combination of being away from home and the pressures and stresses of doing a good job and passing your class and getting the degree, it all just adds up and accumulates into one big ball of stress that can lead into depression. Please, if you ever have these feelings of depression, if you're a college student, please, please, please reach out for help. Know that there are resources, know that you're not alone, and that there are other ways to deal with your depression and to stay away from hookup culture, to, you know, report things that are happening to you. One thing that I've noticed just from talking to friends and other people on college campuses, especially females, is that the over-sexualization of women, especially on college campuses and in the media and advertising, that adds another pressure to be better or to be something that you're not, and to try to live up to the expectations that society sets for you, that can also contribute to your depression. Now, on top of that, especially on campus, there are higher percentages of women being raped and harassed and taken advantage of. And at the end of the day, that leaves a scar on that person for forever, for the rest of their lives. It's traumatizing, it's not safe, it's not by any means acceptable. But I think what's really driving people crazy right now are these debates like the Kavanaugh debate, where, you know, women are coming forth to report these things and to get justice, not just for them, but to prevent it from happening to future people. But as you can see from the Kavanaugh debate, people don't take it seriously. Trump didn't take it seriously. Other politicians didn't take it seriously, and instead they sat there and they mocked them. And I think that's something that everybody saw because it's on such a national stage. But when it comes down to college campuses or local communities, it happens all the time. It happens way too often, and there's not enough being done. And I think that also has a major contribution to why these suicide rates are becoming so prominent, and why depression is just so common nowadays, that it's, you know, it's still a sensitive topic to talk about, but it's not unheard of. Before I go into how to cope with depression, I want to combine Pacific Islanders and college students. So Pacific Islander college students, as you probably guessed, they've experienced all of the above. My experience, and I know a lot of my friends' experiences, because of the extreme pressure just to get into college, the competitiveness, the hookup culture, you know, being told what it is and isn't acceptable and trying to fit in. That's a lot to deal with just as a normal college student. But on top of that, the loss of culture and the historical trauma that we experience, that has a huge role in it. That is something in itself that takes a toll on somebody. So with Pacific Islanders, I think college students are a major portion of the depressed population of Pacific Islanders because of all of those pressures plus some. One thing that I didn't mention in this video, and I think especially pertains to Pacific Islander college students, is that the family pressure that is put on them. It's not just society or friends that pressure you, it's your family that pressures you. It's the fact that if you do go away, or if you are gone for long periods of time, you know, when are you coming back? What are you doing? When are you going to come and provide for the family? Are you providing for the family? Do you have a family that struggles with substance use, alcohol use, or mental health, or even just health in general that you used to provide for, but now you got to put that aside and do college too? Like, and if you're doing that, is there a balance? Are you still at home? Are you still, like, there's just this huge family value because of, you know, how much we do value our family in the Pacific Islander community that gets placed on college students that make it difficult for them to even make the decision to go to college. And if you do, props to you. Seriously, that's a really huge deal. Not only do you deal with just the family pressure, but everything that I've mentioned in this video pertains specifically to you. It's really difficult, I think, for people to understand that, especially for Indigenous people in general, whether you're Pacific Islander or not. That's a difficult decision for you to make because of the fact that your culture and your values are so different from everybody else. So, to share with you my personal experience, the first steps that I had to take was really just being able to talk to my friends and some family members. I know a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking to their family, but it's okay to go out of your family or talk to individualized people in your family that you do feel comfortable with. For me, a big step and help was talking to my friends, because, you know, they're not so closely attached to you where they see every aspect of your life, but they are there to support you and to help you. I think your friends are definitely the family that you choose for yourself, and if you're surrounding yourself with positive people or people that, you know, have your best interest in mind, why not share your personal struggle with them, because they don't want to see you going through this. The next step that I had to take was going to seek professional help. For a while, I was really bad. I felt myself going down a darker path that I knew I didn't want to be on. I knew that for myself, what I wanted in my life and the example that I wanted to lead for my siblings, that if I wanted to, you know, accomplish everything that I had in mind, I needed to seek medical help. So I went to my doctor, and I do recommend this, especially if you are experiencing extreme depression. Please take the time to make an appointment and figure out what is best for you. So for me, it took a few times to sit down with my doctor. I was prescribed one medication, and this happens to everybody. It might not, you know, for some people it could be right off the bat that medication is awesome, it really works for me, but that wasn't the case for me, and it's not a case for a lot of people. So it really is just going back and forth and figuring out, okay, well, I like the way this one made me feel, but it kind of made me groggy, so, but I liked the way that this one felt because I felt happy. However, I was jittery all day long. Like, it's that kind of conversation that you need to have to really figure out what works best for you and how to get the best effect out of your medicine and your healing plan. Another thing that I haven't done consistently but have heard amazing things about when you do go consistent is therapy. Therapy, I think, really helps because you get somebody who, you know, doesn't really know you or your life and is an unbiased person, third party. You sit down and talk to them, and they're able to kind of guide you or give you advice or really pick out what it is that are your triggers. And by understanding your triggers and what it is that contributes to your depression, you can identify them and take the next steps to cope with them, get rid of them, and get over these depression symptoms that you're experiencing. So yes, if you are going through the early stages right now where, you know, you're feeling very uneasy, if you're feeling discouraged or frustrated, I just want you to know that I'm so proud of you for taking those steps and to continue to do so, because at the end of the day, you are what is most important, and your health needs to come first before anything else in your life. And once you start taking care of yourself, or if you know somebody that is experiencing depression that is taking those steps, you're going to see a significant change in yourself once those steps start taking effect. Once you start taking the medication, you know, you could go through periods where you seem a little different or you're not very happy. But once you get to the point where you find something that really does work for you, or when you're able to talk more openly to your friends and your family about it, or when you're going to therapy and you're starting to see that these things and these steps that you're taking to heal and put yourself back on the track that you want to see, your whole personality is going to change. Or your whole aura and energy and your outlook on life is going to change, and it's a noticeable difference. It's a noticeable difference. I don't think people really think about how dramatically your mental health can affect your physical health. Because if you're not feeling good on the inside, it's not going to show on the outside. But once you make that change, once you take the steps necessary and you do feel good on the inside, you feel happy and not so foggy and upset, you know, you're just going to shine and you're going to be the light in the world that you always have been. And if this is what you're going through right now, just please keep going. I cannot emphasize it enough. Me, the people around you, your family, your friends, we all love you dearly, and we are just so proud of you for taking the steps necessary to heal yourself and to provide yourself with the better life that you see for yourself. So that's all for this video. Be sure to subscribe so you guys see when the new videos are being posted, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any comments or think of any other factors that contribute to the depression, please be sure to leave it in the comments below. Check out sincerelyalana.weebly.com for more videos and more information and resources regarding mental health, physical health, and other statistics surrounding Pacific Islanders. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next time and spread peace, love, and positivity. Mahalo!